Thanks, Miranda. Roxanna.
Hi everyone. So I don't think I'm going to talk in a huge amount of detail about my actual research findings. I think a lot of you already know me. I've co-authored with a couple of people here, so Chris, Laura, and as Layla mentioned earlier, I'm also co-I on our ESRC bid on intersecting police custody. So my research focuses mainly on vulnerable suspects and the appropriate adult safeguards. I've done quite a bit of work with Chris, and as Harriet mentioned earlier, I'm also the co-chair of this network. In the last number of years as well, I've been looking at legal aid, criminal defence, particularly in the Welsh context. There's not an awful lot of research examining Wales, and given that I'm based in Cardiff, thought it'd be a good opportunity to start exploring how criminal justice is experienced in Wales. So I'm interested in individuals' experiences of the criminal process, constructions of vulnerability within the criminal process. So one quite recent paper that I'm working on is on this idea that first-timers to the process are vulnerable in so many words, and those who regularly pass through the process are not. And that sort of derives from some interview data with solicitors and barristers based in the South Wales area. So really I'm interested in constructions of vulnerability and then how that plays out, particularly at the early stages of the criminal process, so specifically in police custody, but I'm also interested in how that plays out in court, for example. And interested in it, I mean, as Laura pointed out earlier, not simply from a kind of individual perspective, but also how the system, structures, procedures and processes might render someone vulnerable or might, as I've tried to frame it, reduce their resilience. I know there are problems with both the term vulnerability and resilience, particularly in the neoliberal context. I've got quite a number of interests. I'm a bit of a magpie of sorts. There's another project hopefully starting in May 2022 with Philip Batomsak at Nottingham, looking at the regulation of criminal justice detention. I think my contribution there will be predominantly on police custody. And as Harriet mentioned earlier, along with John, we sort of run the vulnerable accused theme of the network. So if anyone is interested in joining, and both we kind of take quite a broad framing of vulnerability and a broad framing of the accused. We meet mostly once a month during kind of term time, university term time. So if anyone is interested, just drop me a line. I'm not really sure enough on what else to say on this. But there are quite a number of you who've already spoken, and I'm like, yes, I'm interested in that. Yes, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in everything. So yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch, is keen to collaborate, time permitting, I am all up for collaborations. I love working with other people. And I think I'll close it off there, given that everyone else has already talked